My name is Zafar Iqbal, and you are watching the Mojo Story. In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court has unanimously declared the electoral bond scheme unconstitutional, responding to a series of legal challenges against the scheme's legitimacy. The court today gave its verdict. It was a five-judge constitutional bench, which was led by the Chief Justice, Justice Chandrachud, who delivered the verdict, halting the issuance of electoral bonds by directing the State Bank of India to seize their distribution. Additionally, the court has mandated the submission and purchase details of electoral bonds since April 12, 2019 to the Election Commission of India. Now, remember, this scheme was started in 2018 by the then Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. The government at that point in time said that this is to stop the cash transactions that are done at the time of elections, and this would make the process more transparent. And if the transactions are done online and with the help of checks, but now the court has turned down, and it has just struck down that 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 decision that was made at that point in time, and said that the scheme is unconstitutional. The court's decision primarily revolves around the violation of constitutional provisions, that is, particularly 19(1)(a) and Article 14. It highlighted concerns regarding the indiscriminate corporate contributions to political parties, and also emphasized that such provisions could lead to undue influence in the electoral process. Now, remember that all those corporate companies who are making contributions and donations, their names remain concealed. They are not given out. The government has said that it is for in the fairness of the things, that suppose somebody wants to donate for some particular political party, so that the other party does not know that who is the donor behind it. But that contradicts with the right to information, and that is what the court has pointed out. The court has particularly criticized the removal of restrictions on corporate funding, stating that it was arbitrary and it was discriminatory. Let's hear what the Chief Justice actually said while pronouncing the verdict.
As amended by Section 11 of the Finance Act 2017, are violative of Article 19(1)(a) and unconstitutional. And B, the deletion of the proviso to Section 182(1) of the Companies Act, permitting unlimited corporate contributions to political parties, is arbitrary and violative of Article 14. We consequently issue the following directions. A, the issuing bank shall herewith stop the issuance of electoral bonds.
Now, originally, the scheme was introduced with the aim of enhancing transparency in political funding. The electoral bond scheme that was introduced in 2018, but it faced criticism because of the opaqueness of the process that is involved in it, where the name of the donor is not disclosed. Various parties and organizations had challenged the scheme in court, arguing that its confidentiality clause infringed upon citizens' rights to information and undermined the fairness of election. Now, in defense of the scheme, the government argued that it aimed to ensure clean funding for political parties. However, critics contended that disclosing donor identities is essential for that transparency in a democratic process, and that is what has been held by the court, that it goes against the right to information, that people would want to know that who are the donors. And now they have asked the State Bank of India to furnish all those details and give them to the Election Commission of India since April 2019. Now, statistics have revealed, according to the reports, that BJP has had a substantial portion of the electoral bonds between 2018 and 2022. That was followed by the Congress and TMC of Mamata Banerjee. Clearly, the Supreme Court has highlighted the importance of upholding constitutional principles and transparency in political financing. Now, the ruling comes just ahead of the general elections, which are due to happen in a couple of months' time. And this has been a long pending issue. Um, all the political parties, the Congress, the BJP, will go to polls in a couple of months, and this will, of course, have a major impact on the political funding during those elections. Uh, to recap for our viewers, the Supreme Court, through a five-judge constitutional bench that was presided by the Chief Justice, has unanimously held the change made in the law to introduce the electoral board scheme as unconstitutional. So it has really struck down the the scheme, and the decision came in response to a bunch of pleas challenging the legal validity of the electoral bond scheme. The court directed the State Bank of India to cease issuance of electoral bonds. So now they will not be issuing those electoral bonds. And additionally, it has asked the bank to submit the details of the electoral bonds which were purchased in the interim order was made in April 2019, and give those details to the Election Commission of India. The court has highlighted the uh, concerns regarding the unlimited corporate funding that can happen when this scheme is in place to political parties, stating that it was arbitrary and could lead to unrestrained influence of the companies in the election. Now, court has tried to make a distinction between an individual and a company. According to the scheme, there was no distinction between an individual donor and a company which was donating to a particular political party. But court has made that difference clear in its verdict. So the electoral bond scheme that was introduced with the objective of enhancing transparency in poll funding, but its detractors argued that the scheme's confidential nature promoted corruption and did not ensure a level playing field. Now, various parties and organizations had challenged the electoral bond scheme in court, citing concerns about transparency. And today, that verdict has come out. Five-member constitutional bench that was headed by the Chief Justice of India, Justice Chandrachud. The government has, on its side, defended the scheme, stating that its aim to ensure that funding received by political parties was clean money. It was not done in some sort of a cash transactions. It was done online or by way of check transactions, and that would make the process transparent. But when you don't have the name of the donor, there is an intrinsic opaqueness in the entire process, and court has now uh, made those points clear in that verdict, and it has struck it down. It's argued that disclosing the donor's identity, that's what the government said at that point in time, could disincentivize the process, and asserted that voters do not base their decisions solely on funding sources but on ideology, principles, leadership, and party efficiency. However, the court has struck it down and says that uh, it's a violation of constitutional principles, particularly Article 19(1)(a) and Article 14, and that has been made the basis and for this landmark ruling by the Supreme Court, which has unanimously declared that the electoral bond scheme is unconstitutional. It was responding to a series of legal challenges. Now, this electoral bond scheme was introduced in 2018 by the then Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, and it was said at that point in time, reportedly, he had written a Facebook post, and he had said that it's more transparent a process because there is no cash transactions that are involved. It's only the online and the check uh, through which money transactions take place. But the five-member judge today, uh, led by the Chief Justice, delivered its verdict, halting the issuance of the electoral bonds by directing the State Bank of India to cease their distribution, and it's additionally asked the court has mandated the submission of purchase detail of electoral bonds since April 2019 to the Election Commission of India. So clearly a landmark ruling that's come just before the general elections in the country, which is scheduled to happen in a couple of months. And this would clearly have an impact on the political funding of the political parties. According to reports, BJP had got the maximum funds in those years, which was followed by the Congress and followed by TMC. So clearly a landmark judgment that's come today. 5-member constitutional bench that was headed by Justice Chandrachud, the Chief Justice of India. We'll keep a close track of this story and bring you more developments and reactions about it. But for now, thanks so much for tuning in and for joining the Mojo Story.
Mojo Story has always made a commitment to its viewers to go to where the story is. And as you can see here, we are at the epicenter of the Israel war on Gaza. We are right at the front line, about 1 mile from the Gaza Strip, as the Israeli military gets ready with its tanks and its gunners to begin its final frontal assault that will take troops into Gaza. As we said, we are not like other organizations. We believe in giving you all sides of the story objectively and as much as possible from the ground. And that's exactly what we're doing here, covering the biggest global story today from the epicenter of the war zone. So please, we need your support. Support us, become a Mojo member, subscribe to us, spread the word, and thank you for your support.